In this video, I'm going to give you 10 great idioms you can use for any question in the IELTS speaking test to help you get a great score. So let's get started. I'm Francis, I'm an IELTS examiner, and on this channel, I help you get a high score in your English exams and reach advanced level English. So if that sounds useful, then hit that subscribe button. So we're going to look at 10 great idioms to help you improve your score. But first, why are idioms important? Why do we need them? It's because they are a requirement if you want to get a higher level vocabulary score in IELTS speaking. Basically, if you don't have idioms, you can't get those higher scores. Now, a lot of students ask me, there are thousands of idioms in English. Do I have to learn them all? The truth is, no, of course not. Nobody can learn them all. Instead, what you can do is learn a few very flexible idioms and use them for any question, any situation you face. And the idioms we're going to learn are based on very simple ideas like you're happy, or something is expensive, or you're working very hard. Those simple ideas that come up a lot in all kinds of different questions. So anytime you want to say those ideas, you can use these idioms instead. So let's get started with our list of 10. The first one is over the moon. Over the moon. It means when you're very happy. So you could say, I was over the moon when I found out I got the job. I was very happy. Or he'll be over the moon when he hears that good news. Number 2 is something very expensive. You can say it costs an arm and a leg. An arm and a leg. For example, his medical bills cost him an arm and a leg. Or I'd love to buy a new iPhone, but it'd cost an arm and a leg. Number 3 is when you work hard or you do something extra, more than you need to do. You do something more. And for that one we say, go the extra mile. And you could say, my teacher always goes the extra mile to help me understand the material. Or I always go the extra mile to try to impress my boss. Then 4 is when you're in trouble. Someone's angry with you. We can say you are in hot water. For example, he's in hot water with his boss because he missed an important deadline. Or I knew I was in hot water when I saw the scratch on my dad's new car. Number 5 is when we agree with someone or we have the same idea. The idiom is on the same page. We are on the same page. For example, it's important that we're all on the same page before we start this project. Or we could say, the team needs to get on the same page if we want to win the competition. Now, if you want a complete step-by-step guide to getting a high score in the IELTS exam, make sure you check out our course, IELTS Complete Guide. The link is down here. Number 6 is for people who are quite easygoing. You don't really argue, you just accept things. For this one, we say, go with the flow. So you could say, sometimes it's easier to just go with the flow rather than fight against a situation. Or, usually I just go with the flow when it comes to making plans. Number 7 is when you're in an uncomfortable situation or a situation you don't know very well. We can say, you are like a fish out of water. So we could say, she looked like a fish out of water when asked to speak in public for the first time. Or, I'd be like a fish out of water in a dance competition. That's definitely true for me. Number 8, if you don't like something, if it's not your thing, we can say it's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. For example, he's into heavy metal music, but it's just not my cup of tea. Or, some people love spicy food, but it's just not my cup of tea. Then number 9 is when you're making a plan, but things are still not decided. Things are uncertain. We can say they are up in the air. Up in the air. For example, the plans for the weekend are still up in the air. Or, I'm not sure where I'm going to live in the future. It's still up in the air. And then the last one is for something easy. And this one is a piece of cake. You could say, I thought the project was going to be very difficult, but it turned out to be a piece of cake. Or, after learning these 10 idioms, getting a great score in IELTS was a piece of cake. And something really important to know is that the grammar is always quite fixed for these idioms. So you have to use them in a certain way. What you can do is look under the video, and I've written all of these sentences there for you to check. So you can follow the pattern, follow the grammar when you're making your own idioms and when you're using these in the real IELTS test. For example, piece of cake. We wouldn't say, I have a piece of cake. Well, we could. And that sounds like a nice situation. Oh, I got a piece of cake. But if we want to say something's easy, we have to say, it is a piece of cake. Now that we've learned these 10 idioms, we're going to try to use them to put them into a real IELTS speaking answer. So we've got our question. You can see it here. What are you going to do after you graduate from university? Now, I've written out an answer, and I've included many of those idioms. You can see the lines. That's where we've got some idioms. But of course, I don't want to make it too easy for you. So your job is to pause the video now, read that answer, and see if you can decide which of the idioms goes in which space. Look at the words around. That's called the context. Look at the words before and after and think, what simple meaning is it trying to say here? And then you can think, which idiom has that simple meaning? And then you can put the idiom in place. So you can find the idioms underneath this video, pause, and try to do that now. So let's take a look through, and we're going to look sentence by sentence. So the first one, to be honest, that's still up in the air. It means I haven't decided yet. I'd like to do a gap year and travel around the world, but I've heard that it'd cost an arm and a leg. It would be very expensive. And I think I'd be in hot water with my parents. My parents would be very angry if I decided to go away for a year instead of working, getting a job. They want me to train as a lawyer, but that's no piece of cake. So it's not something easy. So if we said it is a piece of cake, that means it's easy. If it's not a piece of cake, it's not easy. I'm not super keen on the idea anyway. I think I'd be a fish out of water in the legal world. So I would be in an uncomfortable situation. It wouldn't be my kind of situation. I'd be a fish out of water. So me and my parents definitely aren't on the same page there. We don't have the same idea. We don't really agree. And then the last part, I'd be over the moon. I'd be really, really happy. I'd be over the moon if I could be a professional singer, but I'd really have to go the extra mile for that. And that's not really my style. So I'd have to work very, very hard. And why is it not our style? I tend to just go with the flow. So I tend to be kind of easygoing, not working too hard. Now I'm going to read this for you one more time so that if you want, you can follow my intonation and practice this answer by yourself. So here we go. Well, to be honest, that's still up in the air. I'd like to do a gap year and travel around the world, but I've heard that it'd cost an arm and a leg, and I think I'd be in hot water with my parents. They want me to train as a lawyer, but that's no piece of cake. I'm not super keen on the idea anyway. I think I'd be a fish out of water in the legal world. So me and my parents definitely aren't on the same page there. I'd be over the moon if I could be a professional singer, but I'd really have to go the extra mile for that, and that's not really my style. I tend to just go with the flow. Now, something to note is that I've included a lot of idioms here, and in truth, your answer doesn't have to have so many. You just need a few. You're going to sprinkle them over your answer just to bring that vocabulary score up a little bit. And because I'm a teacher, I'm going to give you some homework. So you can see on screen there are 5 questions, and these are all kind of typical IELTS speaking questions. And I want you to try to choose one of them and write an answer for me under the video using the idiom that I've put in brackets. For example, number 1, do you like horror movies? And you're gonna say, no, I don't. You're gonna use that cup of tea. It's not my cup of tea. But try to write a full answer, maybe 50 or 60 words. And if you can use some other idioms as well, then that's extra points. And I'll take a look at your answer and I'll leave a little feedback. I'll tell you if it's right, if there are any problems, and I'll even give you a score for it. So that's our video all about 10 very useful, very flexible idioms for your IELTS speaking test. If you found this useful, make sure to like and subscribe. And we also have some great playlists, great videos to help you with your IELTS preparation. You can see them right here. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.